Hello, Gills Club! This is Wcisel, your featured scientist for the month of May. I really wish I could be at the event and get your questions in person, but unfortunately I'm in Michigan. So what the Gills Club has done is they have sent me a few questions to answer, and if you think of any other questions that you'd like me to answer, just post them on the Facebook page, and I'll be able to reply to them there. Right. First question. Why I became interested in sharks? Well, it started with sea turtles. I actually worked on several sea turtle nesting beaches where sea turtles come up and lay their eggs and hop back into the ocean again. During that time, lots of sharks are attracted to those beaches as well, because sea turtles are main prey source for quite a few sharks, but especially tiger sharks. So there was one day when we had come back into the office after doing a patrol, and somebody had sent us a video of a tiger shark practically annihilating a green turtle, and I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I know that's weird. I'm okay with that, but I thought it was totally awesome. And then after that, on another sea turtle nesting beach, this is kind of a sad story, but I was doing a patrol, and there was a female trying to get up the beach, but she was really having a lot of difficulty. And normally you don't approach a sea turtle while it's doing its crawl because you could disturb it, but in this case it almost looked like she was dragging something, or like maybe she had net around her. So I went up to the turtle and turned on my red light, and when I did that I realized that half of her was missing. She only had two flippers, her front left flipper and her back left flipper, and that's all she could use to get up the beach because the other two had been bitten off, presumably by a tiger shark. And again, I thought that was really, really cool. And I know that's weird, but that's just how I am. So then, during my undergraduate as well, I had the opportunity to work on a great white shark dissection with Dr. Gottfried. And I thought that was amazing. Here was this really huge white shark that I was taking all the flesh off of. And the reason why I was doing that is looking at teeth morphology through the various stages of development. And it was the most incredible thing. It was a bit creepy, set up in a museum all by myself, with a whole bunch of dead animals around. Could have been a good time for a zombie attack, but I was prepared for that. But that's what really got me interested in sharks. Right, next question. How did I choose a school to pursue that knowledge? So, something you're going to hear repeated a lot is we got our interests in sharks when we were already at school. And really, just to kind of give you a bit of background with me, I changed my major probably 4 times before I finally settled on zoology. And why I tell you that is I don't want you to be afraid to do the same thing. I started off knowing that I was going to go into music, and that's actually what my first major was. After that, when I realized I didn't actually like performing very much, it was when you perform, I won't get into that, but anyway, after that I realized, well, I'm pretty good at math, why don't I go into engineering? So I started off in the engineering school and started taking calculus and all the advanced math, and while I was good at it, I hated it, so I didn't want to go into engineering as a career. And then finally I settled on the fact that, you know what, I love nature, I've always been interested in animals, always been interested in the behavior of animals, so I decided with zoology and neurobiology. So don't be afraid to change your major and to do different things and get different experiences. So you do end up in a field that you really, really like, because those are the people who end up doing the best, I think. So I had already started at Michigan State, and when I finished that degree, that's when I decided I'm just going to go out and try and get as much personal experience in the field with sharks as I possibly can, and did quite a few volunteer, internship, and then moved up from there, being offered positions in South Africa, and then eventually moving there and completing my master's degree. So I kind of did a different route. I got my interest in college, then did field work as much as I could, and then by the time I was kind of getting done with my fieldwork stage in life, I knew where I wanted to go for my master's degree, and how I wanted to complete it. So, next question. Where I came up with my idea, for research. Well, this is also, I think, a cool story, but everybody thinks their own stories are cool. One of the jobs I worked at in South Africa was a whale watching guide. So every day, 3 to 4 times a day, I was going out to sea and guiding whale watching trips. And during those whale watching trips, every trip, we go to the seal colony. And at the seal colony, that's where I really started to get quite interested in what the seals were doing, because as I worked there for many years, you could see that the seal behavior changed dramatically between winter and summer, because white sharks aggregate at seal colonies during the winter, and then in the summertime, they're largely absent. You might have 1 or 2 sharks kicking around, but not the hundreds that may be there. So during that time, I had my interest in the interaction between sharks and seals, and there was also this penguin element, but I wasn't quite sure I wanted to go with that. And then there was a talk occurring at the University of Cape Town by Dr. Alta de Vos, who ended up becoming my supervisor, one of them. And her talk was all about her work that she'd done at Seal Island in False Bay. And I thought her talk was amazing to begin with. But also, I knew that the things she had seen in False Bay were not the same as what I was seeing at Geyser Rock, where I was a whale watching guide. So I really wanted to examine why they were so different. What were the different things occurring at the different islands that would make the seals act differently? Maybe the sharks are acting differently. What was happening between these two systems? So after the talk, I literally pounced on Alta and I said, I need to speak with you. And I told her how much I loved her talk, and how much I really wanted to do a similar project. And it kind of snowballed from there. I got a hold of her supervisor, who's Justin Orion, and we got talking about setting up a project and looking at the different spaces. So that's where the research concept came from, just being out on a whale watching boat nonstop and being actually out there in nature. You see and you start to develop your own kind of mini theories as to what you think are occurring. And once you do your research and look back into the literature and see if there's a feasible project into that, then you can really develop it into your own research after that. Right, next question. What goals do I have for my future? I'm unsure of whether or not I want to carry on with a PhD. I think at some stage in my life I probably will. But at the moment, what I'd really like to focus on is scientific communication. There are many researchers out there doing incredible work, but it's just not getting the attention that I think it deserves, and maybe the researchers think it deserves as well. So what I'd like to do is help researchers, universities, and nonprofits get their messages out about what they're doing in really entertaining and accurate ways. Because while I was working with my master's degree, I was also working full-time as an online community manager doing Facebooks and etc. for commercial ecotourism in South Africa. So what I really like to do is mix those brains together. I'd like to take my zoology brain, mix it with my marketing brain, and then help other people who are in the research field get their message across. So more people can know about the exciting science that's happening out there. Even if you can't get access to publications or you can't get access to journals, it's there in another form. So I want to take advantage of all this free communication things that we've got going on out there and exploit that to get the science out there for people who are really, really interested in it. Next question. Oh, my last question. Any advice you have for young girls interested in science? Oh yes, I have lots of advice for you, but before I get to the advice, I want to tell you 2 stories that illustrate the point I'm about to make. And to tell these stories, I'm going to have to use a prop of the mustache. For when I have somebody who's talking to me, you'll understand in a minute. Is the mustache. That's pretty good. Alright. While I was working, while I was at school at Michigan State, I worked at a wine cellar to pay the bills. And a gentleman had come up in the queue. I was working the cash register. And he had ordered a sandwich or something, I don't know. And while that was being prepared, he asked me, so are you going to college around here or something? And I said, yes, I'm at Michigan State. And he said to me, Oh, well, what are you majoring in there? What's your major? And I said, oh, actually, I'm majoring in zoology and neurobiology. And he said to me, ha, so, you're just waiting to get a husband then. Ha 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 ha. Really? Did that really just happen? I was dumbstruck. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe that somebody would say that. So, that's part of my point. My next story is going back to when I was working with sea turtles. And at a beach that I was working on, it was being renourished. So what that means is a big dredge, a big ship, goes offshore, picks up a whole load of sand, and then comes back to the beach, dumps that sand off to make the beach wider. And that's for places where basically hurricanes have eroded the beach naturally, but people have put houses on those beaches and don't want their houses to fall into the ocean, even though it's a barrier island, and that's what barrier islands do, but I will not go there. So while I was doing that project and working for the government, I had to have weekly meetings with the engineers that were in charge of the renourishment. And every time I'd go there, I don't even know if they knew my real name, because all they'd call me was Barbie. Hey Barbie, how are the sea turtles this week, Barbie? And I was so irritated by that. I could not believe that these guys were not taking me seriously as the government official that I was, and were kind of having a laugh at this young female biologist, and it just drove me insane. So, to get to the advice part of all my stories, I wish somebody earlier had told me that I was going to run into situations like that. Unfortunately, my stories are not unique. We all have them. So what I encourage you to do is kind of have that mental preparedness and know that when you run into a situation like that, when you run into a person like that, it's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with the science that you're going into. It's got to do with that person. And just let that roll off of you and carry on going. Unfortunately, I know quite a few people, women who'd gone into science, who, once they hit a situation like that, they stopped. They stopped dead in their tracks, decided, you know what, I'm going to go into something else, and then gave up science as a career because they were met with this kind of sticky situation. So that's my advice to you. If you hit that, and unfortunately when you might hit that, keep going. We need more women going into science to stop people like that from acting the way that they do. So, that's the end of all my questions. I cannot believe it. As I said, if you run into any more questions you'd like to ask me, please go onto the Facebook page and leave them there. I'll be able to reply to you as soon as you put them down, hopefully. And we'll be able to carry on the discussion there. Right? Bye, Gills Club!